Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Motor City Riffs podcast. I'm your host, Chuck Bean. Of course, every Sunday night at 9 p.m., I'm joined by Screamin' Scott, and we give you a whole bunch of local bands from right here in the Motor City. But for the podcast, we focus on one band, and we dig deep and find out the history of them and where they're going and where they've been and what kind of people they are. And I think we got some good people in the studio today. Today, we're going to be talking to Eva Under Fire. Let me go around the room and say hello to everybody, starting with the lead singer, Eva. Hello.
What's up? Eva here.
Welcome to the show. We've got the one of the guitarists, Rob, also here.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Rob. Chris, another guitar player over here.
What's up?
And we've got Ed, the bass player.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome to the Motor City Riffs podcast, guys. This is the third one of these, so I'm still ironing out the kinks, but I'm happy to have you all here.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
man.
We're all broken ourselves, so we'll figure it out
We
together.
were just commenting that we were terrible house guests because we came in like, hey, where you got the snacks
Hey,
at?
where's the snack? Hey, forget the podcast. Where's the Oreos?
That's really what you guys are going to take away from tonight is like,
Yeah.
they got Oreos at the Riff, man.
Right.
It's great.
We appreciate you, but also they have snacks.
Right. So I'm excited to have you guys in the studio because just last month we had you guys at Riff Fest. And we didn't get a chance, like I got to watch you guys on the stage, but we didn't actually get a chance to interact at all. But you guys killed it, absolutely killed it. I was so proud to see the local bands just rocking the crowd. Like, because that second stage at Riff Fest can be kind of a crapshoot in that, like, because it's before the main stage bands go on. So like on one hand, we do it specifically so that we can entertain people while they're in line getting in. But at the same time, we want them to be like, oh, what is that? Who are this band? These guys are great.
Yeah.
And it's kind of gives them an advanced look at a band that, like, maybe next year at Riff Fest, you guys will be on the main stage, and that'd be freaking sweet.
Let's do it. We're putting positivity into the universe, manifesting. So thank you so much. Yeah, the Riff Fest was kind of like we talked briefly before the show about like checking big things off the bucket list.
Yeah.
And like for all of us being from here, that was a big one. Riff
What
Fest
was
was a big one.
What was it like for each of you, like the first time you heard Eva Under Fire on the Riff? Because that's one of the cool things about doing
You
Riff
tell 'em.
Fest.
So
We were-
I actually have video of this.
Yes. Yeah. You tell them.
So we had heard, obviously, that Riff was going to play our song. So
Yeah.
like what we had is friends and family like listening constantly, and we were getting tagged by fans and stuff, people that heard it, and but for me personally and other guys in the band, we didn't catch it ourselves, and it's a different experience when you actually hear it. Like, I think of that scene from That Thing You Do, where they hear their song on the radio for the first time and they all go nuts.
Yeah, everybody
Right.
freaked out.
That's kind of what happened. But we were on tour with the Nothing More and Asking Alexandria and Atreyu, and it was after one of the shows, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I stayed up late because I'm out partying with everybody.
Sure.
And I just have the Riff playing low on my phone, just kind of listening passively for it to
You're just
come
kind of
on.
hoping it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, and then I actually turned the volume on my phone down all the way. So, because I'm in conversation, it was distracting the conversation. So, but then I looked down. I just happened to look down. My phone's completely silent, no music, and it just says, "Blow, Eva Under Fire." And I was like, shut up, everybody. And then
It turns into the Michael Scott meme from The Office. It's happening! It's happening!
Yeah, you guys.
So I turned the volume up all the way, and all the crew, the Nothing More crew, was up hanging out with me, and it was like just this experience. And the merch guy for Nothing More got the whole video of my reaction to
That's
it.
fun.
You
And
woke me
everyone
up
on
from-
the bus that was awake was dancing and stuff.
You woke me up from bunk alley though. Like so there was a couple of us that were still sleeping, right? And
Sure.
so like the front cabin is where the partying is happening and everybody's sleeping in the back. And then I hear them, it's on the radio. Rob opens up the door to bunk alley, which is like a giant no-no, by
Yeah.
the way. Like
Everyone's
people are
sleeping,
right?
and
He's
it's
like, our song's on the radio. And they were so cool. Like we were on the crew bus, right?
Yeah.
So they were so awesome and very excitable for us. I roll out of my bunk. I'm like freaking out trying to get up, and I was like, where? And he like turns it up on his phone. Everybody's dancing and singing and stuff. It was a really cool, like very, very memorable moment, especially being on a tour bus.
I'm sure.
Like while that happens, that was insane.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as you guys have mentioned, you guys are already at the point where you're touring with a lot of national acts and doing some really cool stuff. And we'll get into that. But I want to take a step back. I want to hear about what were the origins of the band like? Like, how did the band start?
Chris, you want to tell them about the show we met at?
Well, basically, yeah. I mean, really, it started years before that, though, because Ed and I played in a local band.
Okay.
And
What was the name of that band?
Pillar of Autumn.
Okay.
And then Amanda played in a band called Fall Prey, and we would play shows together.
Okay.
Just, whatever. So we got to know each other through that. And then, fast forward 10 years or something, and neither her or I were playing in bands. We went to see a mutual friend's band play at what is that? Uncle Sam Jam
Uncle
there.
Sam
yeah.
Jam,
in
yeah.
Yeah,
Woodhaven.
all right.
And of course there was nobody there but her and I. So literally we ended up just standing next to each other because there was no one there.
Right.
And we just started talking and decided that neither of us were playing and we should get together and jam.
Who were you seeing at the Uncle Sam Jam?
Amanda. I don't remember their name.
Our friend's band.
After the Tide.
Thank you.
There you go.
See, I
I couldn't remember what iteration it was. If it was
I can't wait for After the Tide to start angrily tweeting you after this comes
Well,
out.
I mean, they haven't been
Jose
abandoned
knows.
How
forever.
dare you forget us?
But yeah, so then
I have a T-shirt still. I don't want to hear it.
but we got together and like the first day, I think we wrote like 2 or 3 songs, which we put out on our first album.
Excellent.
Actually, so like it would just went.
I think it was Betrayer was one of the very first
It
ones.
was that and Broken, and there was like we started working on Annabelle. So there was like 3 songs, like instantly, and we put them out on Anchors, and we just this is working and it's easy. Let's start a band. So we did.
Excellent. Nice. Now, how many of the members who are currently in the band were in that initial?
3.
Okay.
And that's Amanda,
So-
Rob, and I.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first interaction, right? But Chris and Ed knew each other from before. We also Rob and I played together in the second iteration of Fall Prey.
Okay.
And so like everybody that's in this band is all coming from separate other local band projects. Corey
Right.
as well. We met Corey when he was in a band called Nothing for Now.
Okay.
And we all just kind of knew that each other could play, and we had seen each other and like gotten along really great during like the times where our bands would play together
Right.
at like some of these like local bars, and we'd all played in the bar scene together for years. And so when we wanted to give it our all, and we were like, okay, we've learned some things now that we've done this since we were kids. Maybe we could try to make it a business. Let's learn some stuff. Let's learn. Chris was really instrumental in doing the Facebook marketing at first, and like everybody kind of jumped in with their role as not just a bandmate but a business partner. And so
Right.
that's kind of where we really
That's so rock and roll talking
that put
about
the
business. And
well, listen,
analytics.
it put us under like that's really the test, right?
And it really is like these are
Yeah.
the things that you don't think about when
Right.
you're 13 years old and you have a dream. You're like, oh, you got to run a business.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why we've been able to keep it together, is because we can pull that weight.
It's really
All hands on deck.
Well, yeah, but like 5 to 10% of it is like this playing live. Like most of it is the other
Right.
thing. It's
Right.
all the other stuff.
I think it's so maybe that's why we all love the live show so much, because we all put in all of this work and time in order to get to the live show.
Right. You do all the other work because the live show is the fun part of it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
so it sounds like there are bands that are studio bands that like that is their favorite place to be, and then there are bands that are live bands. It sounds like you guys are live band.
For
Like,
sure.
That's your favorite place to be.
Yeah,
I like
studio's,
studio a
the
lot.
studio's a different place too, because like that's where you get to be, the artist. The
Yes.
creativity kind of jumps out. You get a little bit of breathing room. Then you get to go take it to the stage and screw it, we'll do it live, right?
Right. Totally. Totally.
I think it's a little bit different. Like what I like best about like studio is if you have an idea and then you put it in Pro Tools, then you hear it back, and then it just works, and there's like a magic that sort of happens, and you're super happy, and there's like that's a certain type of excitement. But then you're live in front of a bunch of people, and your energies are feeding off each other, and that's the other thing. So like those two, I can't really discern which I like better because I love them both.
yeah.
For me, it's 100% live.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. And if you want to see a great live show, come to the Token Lounge on Saturday, November
Oh, look at
19th.
this guy.
He knows how to do it.
That's another
Hitting it home, man,
85%
hitting it
right
Did
there.
we mention that he's in charge of promotion?
Right.
Right.
You
Yes.
didn't, but now it's obvious.
Yes.
Yes.
I told you about marketing, but so this is the other thing though too, and it's part of our history. And the reason why we're throwing it at Token is because that's one of the bar gigs that all of us kind of like met playing at. We've played Token for years. I mean, that's
Sure.
one of the like home venue
Yeah.
locations. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit nostalgia as well for the reason why we chose to throw the album release show there.
Right. And that's, as you said, happening Saturday the 19th.
Yep.
Who else is playing on that show?
Casting Shadows.
Yep.
Who else?
Opening is Cybus,
yeah.
and then
Icarus Fell.
Icarus Fell. Thank you.
Nice.
And what's funny about that is all of us played the Token Lounge when we were kids to 5 or 10 people.
Yeah.
And now we're close to 800 tickets, which is the capacity. So
That's got to be.
We might sell this out.
It's gonna it'll probably sell. I mean, if we go from playing from 5 or 10 people to 800,
That's got to be mind blowing.
it's crazy.
You know who else sold out the Token? Ace Frehley. So we'd be in that kind of company.
Nice.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
And seriously, thank you guys for all the love, because here at
for sure.
station and you guys doing what you do, I mean, it's been so helpful to see people are freaking out, messaging us like Rob mentioned all the time. And this being our hometown, to get that kind of support is just
So when the radio stuff started to happen, we were seeing it happen in different parts of the country and online and stuff, but all of us were focused on Riff more than any of the rest of them.
Well, it's your hometown station.
Yeah.
It's this
You're
is
like-
And it didn't happen right away either.
Right.
We were like,
It's-
when's it coming?
It's it's cool that they're playing us in North Carolina, but when are they going to play us at home,
right.
man?
Yeah. Radio doesn't mean radio until I actually hear it on a terrestrial station on my.
And it still matters, because there's still people that we'll see in the Facebook group or wherever we'll see the show where they heard us the first time on the Riff
Sure.
when you played us, and we've been playing here for a few years now,
Right.
And they hadn't heard of us, but that was the way that they found us.
It legitimizes you in a sense to
Yeah,
a
it
lot
does.
of people. You go
Yep.
from being
Yep.
a local band to they're playing them after Nirvana and before Disturbed.
Yes.
It's like, wait a minute, maybe we should actually pay attention.
it's a definite
Right.
benchmark.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been cool I've been at the station myself for 10 years, and it's been cool to watch bands like you guys or Greta Van Fleet kind of hit that benchmark of okay, now you've gone from being on my show, Motor City Riffs, which is cool. You're on the radio, but like you're saying, now you're they're playing you, and then Smells Like Teen Spirit starts after blowing.
Yeah,
You're
people getting their oil.
oh man, how cool.
People getting their oil change are forced to listen to you because the mechanics got the riff on in the background.
Right,
construction
exactly.
crews everywhere.
cannot
They're
escape
what is
me.
that song?
So when you let's take another step back to when you guys started. How long was it before you feel like you guys really started to get traction as a band, where it felt like people are really starting to notice?
I'd say
I'll help them with this
Go
because
ahead.
I wasn't originally in the band, right? I think I joined in 2017, right? So they were playing shows for maybe about 2 years. And one of the things that really attracted me to try, working with the project when the opportunity came up was people showed up that weren't friends, weren't girlfriends, weren't parents. And I was like, they're on to something. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know Amanda could sing, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily connect with an audience. They
Sure.
were connecting with people that were not in their circle, and crowds were showing up. And I'm like, this is special here. So it was
That's
kind of early, right?
Yeah.
And
That's
if you
really
think
cool.
within the first 2 years.
so. We did.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that was Ed's perspective.
Yeah.
I did know that I would also say that it started pretty early, but for me it was when we started promoting Drift, and that
Yeah.
was picking up in places that weren't around here at all. So, and we'll tell you more about that. But
Sure.
Well,
Rob, you were
that's
saying-
kind of what I was gonna allude to was
Yeah.
when that all of a sudden had 1 million views, and we're just like, huh?
Yeah.
What's going on here? And that was Chris put ad dollars behind it, and it took off.
But it took off instantly, as soon the
yeah,
same day.
It was that day. We're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it's not like we were putting a lot of ad dollars at it when we noticed the interaction.
It's a 5.5 minute ballad too.
Yeah, right.
It's like, what are these people thinking?
Well, that's something I was listening this morning before we did this. I'm like, I better at least listen to the new thing and know what's going on here. And it's interesting to me that you guys, a lot of your stuff has 2 gears. You've either got a full-on rock song or you've got full ballads. But then there are songs in there that are in that mid-range too, of yeah, this is a ballad, but these guitars are distorted and these are some power chords going on in here, which is really cool. Was there a specific, when you guys started writing your music, was there a specific, I don't want to say genre, but was there a vibe that you were like, this is what we're aiming for, this is what we want?
No.
If you listen to the first record we ever did, we had a CD release show for it in 2016. It's all over the place.
But
Yeah.
so is the newest album.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
was gonna say
so
we
the-
as
the new
people
album
are
is
kind of
too-
chaotic.
Yeah.
The new album is too, but the new album, we definitely paid more attention to how is this going to translate to a live show, because we know
Okay.
if this is going to be a career, it's
Right.
going to be live, right? And it has to be entertainment. It's not just musicianship,
Right.
That's definitely one side of the coin, but you have to entertain that crowd too. But the early stuff, I think it was kind of let's see where we fit, what songs raise their hand, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different musical influences in this band, and they all kind of came out on the first 2 records especially. That's why, like, you'll find a punk song, you'll find a 5-minute ballad,
Yeah.
you'll find a country acoustic song, you'll find a straight-up rock song that could probably be played on the Riff called Annabelle. And you'll find some other songs that are either influenced by Nirvana or Deftones.
Sure.
Or,
Well, let's
whomever.
go around the room. Let's if you had to pick your bands that are influencing your work in Eva Under Fire. Let's start with you, Chris. Like, if you had to pick bands that influence how you approach playing in Eva Under Fire, who would you say?
Wait, because that one's
Mine-
Ed and that
mine
one's
is-
Chris.
I'm
so who
sorry,
needs to
I'm
start?
It's all
Ed.
good.
I'm
It's all
sorry,
good.
Ed.
So I don't know. I've got so much music that I appreciate and listen to. When it comes to, I guess, influencing in this band, it's those 90s rock bands.
Yeah.
Right. Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, stuff like that. I mean, I love Muse. I love Nine Inch Nails.
Sure.
We don't. Sometimes we get into those elements, but that's kind of like my wheelhouse, I guess.
All right. What about you, Chris?
For me, it'd be Deftones.
Deftones?
Yeah.
Just Deftones. That's it.
That's it. You don't need anything
So
else.
there's no Nirvana influence.
Not really. In this
No,
one,
not when you're
no.
writing
Deftones.
songs at
Drop
all.
the mic. Walk
All right.
away.
Now this is
Yeah,
where
there's
this
that-
is
you've
where,
definitely called Nirvana.
as far as I'm concerned, this is where it gets interesting because you have 2 guitarists. What about you?
So my favorite band of all time is Metallica, but I've never used Metallica as an influence for this band.
No.
I never wanted to do something that somebody else has already done, like, and perfected already.
Right.
But what I do like is taking elements, and with our band specifically, especially early on, there was a lot of that 90s grunge
Sure.
inspired. Alice in Chains is one of my other favorite bands.
Okay.
And
I can definitely now that you say it,
yeah.
there's an Alice in Chains
Yeah.
influence in there.
It's just, and I love, like, some of the fun rock from the 80s, like Motley Crue and Poison and
Right.
stuff like that. Like, on the new record especially, you hear a lot of that influence. But, just all over the place. Whatever type of song that it's sort of forming, then I'll kind of think about, like, is this like a more noisy thing, a more vibe thing?
Right.
Or does this need to be a more, like, I guess talent's the wrong word, but more playing, I guess. Like
Yeah.
more
Do
notes.
you need to be extremely technically proficient to pull
Right.
this song off, or once again, is it just a vibe? Is it
Yeah.
just like 4
Am I
chords and
hitting
go?
dissonant chords and then whammy barring and for 5 straight minutes? You know?
Right. Right.
So,
And what about-
what I will say is that Rob plays the lead, and so what you've said to me before has been, I'm inspired by musicians who will play like solos as though they're vocal melodies, right?
Well, Neil
So-
Schon for
Interesting.
me is he's probably him and Eddie Van Halen and Stevie Ray Vaughan are my 3 favorite guitar players of all time.
Okay.
But Neil Schon is one of those guys that he'll play the vocal melody as a solo, and it just soars and it sings. And,
Yeah.
and it's perfect. And the guy's so talented. He underplays what his capabilities are,
Uh-huh.
but he plays what's perfect, and that's what I love about him.
And what about you, Eva?
Oh boy,
When you attack the microphone, what's going on in your
so
brain?
many things. When I attack the microphone to sing in this band, I feel like I think it's like if Christina Aguilera had a rock band.
Okay.
So I grew up a 90s kid, and I was very inspired by a lot of these like crazy pop icons, right? But I didn't have that range. So I felt more comfortable singing along to like Stained and Breaking Benjamin. And,
Sure.
so I get to do so many different things with my voice now in this band because I'm pushing my range, I'm pushing my notes. Like, I feel like every producer that we go and work with is like, all right, let's see what she's got. Open her up, let her rip, you know?
Right.
So it's always a little bit different. Even from our earlier stuff, though, there was some like punk pop influence, and so probably like Gwen Stefani
Okay.
was coming out and some of that stuff. So yeah, I think it depends on kind of what
So
era.
So when are you going to be a judge on The Voice?
We'll see.
That's a
I
whole
gotta
nother
see if Demi
story,
Lovato's
sir.
got room for me over there.
There's actually a whole nother story with American Idol buried in there.
Yeah. So we're gonna take a break here, and we're gonna hit one of your first songs. I think we're gonna hit Blow for this one. Is there anything you would like to impart upon the listener before they possibly experience it for the first time?
The male vocal on the song is, well, never mind.
Okay.
Wrong version.
You'll see who it is
Two
if you've
versions.
never heard this song before.
I-
but
I-
if you
I don't
listen
know
to
if it's
Riff,
that
you've heard this
version.
song before.
There's
Right.
two versions of this song. I don't know which version it is.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm unsure which version I've got at this point.
So this song wasn't intended to become the snowball that it got to be, which is
Yeah.
cool, right? We wrote it, and then it was put in a movie, and then by virtue of that movie, then we get the guest vocal feature
Right.
that you'll hear on the song, or that you've heard on the song maybe. So play on the tune, and we'll tell you a little bit more about it.
Sounds like a plan. All right, we're coming back in just a minute here with more from Eva Under Fire. This is Blow. It's Motor City Riffs. That song right there has like hit single written all over. Did you guys know ahead of time, like while you were in the studio, did you finish it and hear it and go like, oh, this is gonna be a big deal?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Because sometimes you do. Sometimes you finish, sometimes you're in the studio and you finish something, you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be, everyone's gonna love this.
So one of the things.
Wasn't that one of the songs that we used to close the deal when we were talking with labels at first? Because
Yep.
we had like a demo, you know?
Yeah.
Yep, that was the demo version. So we
It's great. It punches you in the face like right from the get-go.
It's so fun. There's so many cool components, I think, of that song, right? The riff, the solo, right? Like you said, it's got a very kick you in your teeth kind of vibe, but then it's got also just a very vocally like strong hook too, right? It's kind of got one of those undeniable choruses.
Hell yeah, it does.
Which is why we were just kind of like, there's so many frilly things that it has. Like this has to be the thing.
Well, we're back with more of the Motor City Riffs podcast. I, of course, am your host, Chuck Bean. I'm talking to Eva Under Fire, their song Blow, you just heard. And we were alluding to before we played the song that you guys actually have two versions of the song, one of which has a special guest star, which would be Spencer Charnas of Ice Nine Kills. How did that come about?
Well, that's a crazy ride. Let me tell you about how that one went. So it was weird because right during the whole world shutting down thing that happened is when we were trying to, we had just finished up the record and it was supposed to have been released in March of 20.
Okay.
And then
I think a
boom.
lot of records were supposed to be
Right?
released in 2020.
Yeah. So, but then as a result, there was a couple of things we were just finishing up. There was this, so the label also, I guess, dabbles in film and produced the Motley Crue story called The Dirt
Yeah.
on Netflix. So they did another film. It's a horror movie. It's called The Retaliators.
Mhm.
Right? Spencer is in it. And
Yes.
of course, that makes sense, right? Ice Nine is just a huge like horror fan.
Yeah, like
and their whole thing
most
is
of their
like that.
songs are based on some horror movie that you've seen
Exactly,
before.
right? They're great for that. And I didn't realize, like, when you hear that song, it's like a fun, snarky attitude, but I wasn't thinking scary movie
Yeah.
when we wrote it, So, but then they kind of made the pitch of how they were going to intertwine this, right? And use it in the soundtrack, which is cool, and where they were going to put it in the film. And then they said, hey, listen, the suits were like, we should try to get Spencer on the track. And I was like, is that even an option?
Right.
Like, is it what? Yes. Thank you. So he came back and he was like, yeah, this is a great hook, and then he said, well, why don't we do the second verse according to my character in the film, which is why the lyrics sit where they sit in the second verse. So you guys will have to, that's a cool Easter egg.
That's fun.
Yeah. So if you guys see the movie, it'll
did
make
you guys
sense.
get to actually sit down and meet
No,
and discuss
no,
things, or was it all
it was all like remote stuff, right? And so the first time that we ever did meet in person was a year later when all the touring started opening back up and things like that. We were at Welcome to Rockville. We played that year. And I was sitting in the like artist compound area, and across the way is walking Spencer, and I just sort of like wave,
Right.
hey, enthusiastic wave from across the way just to see. And he not only stopped and was like, he was like, you know, and he was like, I'm about to blow.
He's like, security?
No, he came over. He was singing the hook. It was
Something
so
tells
sweet.
me she gets that a lot.
I do. Actually, that's I've done this
When
twice
she tried
now.
to ambush Caleb Shomo from Beartooth, we almost got security to tackle her.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
well, so that was my third one because when Hailstorm invited me on stage and they didn't tell the security detail.
He did.
They
stop you
almost
there,
tried to
yeah.
tackle me then too. I'm very rock star. I just show up where I'm not supposed to be. I swear I was invited there every time. But yeah, so he came over, he was singing the hook, and he was like, it's a great song, you know. We took a picture together. He was such a sweetheart to meet in person. So yeah, we've made a lot of friends along the way.
Hell yeah. Now, from like a musical standpoint, like you guys had already pretty much done the song. Like it was in the can, it was in the bag, and then now you've got an outsider, though a very famous outsider and one that is very welcome, coming in to like put their 2 cents on the song.
Yep.
Like, was there any trepidation about like, man, what if we don't like what he does?
I don't think so.
No.
I was an Ice Nine Kills fan since like before they had mainstream success, and I knew the guy could sing.
Yeah.
So I was like very little worry at all. I knew he was going to pull it off.
That's
and
cool.
He did.
He also kind of framed it as though it was like a collaboration.
Yeah.
He wanted to, you know, he was like submitting this idea. I think it would be a cool Easter egg, you know, kind of to do it from this perspective. And we were down with that.
And the way he was presenting it is if you went like, no, then he'd been like, okay, well, let's try something else.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, if he would, I mean, not that we would have said something like that.
Right.
But
That's the thing.
I guess we
and-
could have.
He
He was
wasn't
totally
big timing us or anything.
That's the
No,
thing in hindsight
no.
is like you were saying, you're like the label's like, hey, do you want Spencer to sing in your song? You're like, that's an option. We can do that.
right.
And that's another one of those things that we discussed at the beginning of the show. These mountains that you're climbing and like you don't realize when it happens until it happens. Like, oh, we're at that level now. That's fun.
Right.
We have this tool in our toolbox that we can play with. That's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. You want another one of those?
Sure.
Lizzie Hale texted me after our second time playing with them and was like, have your people call my people. We need to do this for real. Right? I was
Hell
like,
yeah.
Sure. I will have our people
Right.
contact your people. That's crazy.
Do you have people? Or are you guys your people?
Well, so we're the people that, are the artist component. But, I think she was meaning like labels and people
Yeah.
that like set up touring and things
Right.
like that. Like she was really excited that when we got a chance to, it was a really special moment. We did the second show with them and it was a rescheduled date. So it was just the two of us.
Okay.
It was us opening for a 2-hour Hailstorm set.
Nice.
And
That almost didn't happen because the weather was rough.
yeah,
Yeah.
weather was terrible.
I was about to was that out at Pine Knob?
This one was in
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay.
It
No.
was that same tour though. It was a
Yeah.
reschedule from that tour.
Right. Because
Yes.
there were, I seem to remember, I don't remember
They
if it was
played Freedom
exactly
Hill.
Hailstorm, but I seem to remember one of those outdoor shows that like we had one of the DJs, I think it was Steve Black, was out at the show and I was back here and like they had to shut the broadcast down because like storms are coming.
Oh no.
And I was like, okay, there's still an hour and a half of the broadcast. You're just going to have to do the rest from studio because Steve needs to get out of here before the equipment gets hit by lightning kind
Yeah.
of thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
because Michigan is happening right now.
it certainly is.
It's always a risk with amphitheaters. I mean, you can't beat the feel and the scenery and just the type of fun that type of show brings. But weather is always a problem.
So when I was younger and in a band, I always thought like, man, how cool would it be to play an outdoor amphitheater kind of thing? Nowadays, if the weather gets over like 80 degrees, I don't want to be outside for anything. I don't care how cool it is. Right. You could tell me right now that I could go play guitar on the stage at Pine Knob and it's going to be 90 degrees. And I'd say, find somebody else, man.
No, you would do it.
No,
If
I
you
literally would say, find somebody else.
When you step out onto that stage and you just see it, it could be empty, whatever.
Right.
You're just, the power is just so immense. You're like, yeah, I need to be here.
I
mean,
will say-
at the end of the set, you might be regretting it because
Right.
you're probably the first band of 3 or 4 and direct sunlight, of course.
Right.
I was
But-
gonna say, yeah, if it's 1 o'clock in Sacramento at Aftershock, you'd probably do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I totally derailed me here. Let me look at my questions. So yeah, we were talking about putting this particular song together in the studio and having Spencer come on it. You'd mentioned earlier Ed, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm learning names here. I'll have them all before the night's over.
We should just wear name tags.
Probably. I've got such a small brain. I've got the brain of a goldfish, and just like this rock is really pretty. Wow, this rock is really pretty. And then wow, that's so. But Ed, you were mentioning before when you guys were in the studio about kind of approaching, especially with this record, approaching the songs as like, how do we make sure these songs are also entertaining in a live capacity?
Right.
When you were putting songs together in the studio and you had kind of that in mind, were there any ideas that were almost too big? Like, yeah, this sounds great, but how do we do it live?
Well, I mean, I'll let you answer it, but I definitely got.
Go for it.
So
No, if anybody,
I think it's an open question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So there's two that we're currently working on right now for our album release show that it's just it's like, man, it's like these songs were built to sound so big on the record, and we don't have an orchestra playing behind us.
Sure.
You know, we don't. There's certain things we just can't do live that you can do on a record.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You only
So
have 5 people.
yeah. So like we have the U2 cover and a song at the end of the record.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you
Listening
so
to it
much.
today, I was like, I'm not a big U2 fan, especially early U2. Like the guitar playing in early U2 drives me up the wall. But I really liked your guys' cover.
Oh, thank
I thought
you.
it was really good.
If you like that one, you should check out Separate Ways. That one's a good one, too.
Cool.
That one's not on the record, though. But we had the U2 cover, and we had a song at the end of the record called Reason, which is kind of like a country rock sort of ballad.
Sure.
And those songs just sound so massive on record, and we were trying to recreate that vibe in a live setting. It's tough because we don't have additional like synthesizers and keys.
Well,
and,
that kind of leads to another question. Where do you guys stand on like backing tracks? On like, okay, we have this cool orchestrated part on the record. Why don't we just play the backing track with the orchestra when we play it live?
we do, but we don't like to abuse it. We want
Sure.
the band to be first and foremost. There are a lot of bands, and unfortunately, throughout this journey, that's one thing we discovered is there are some bands that just don't play live at all.
Sure.
And we never want to be in that group. We want the band to always come first. And the day that we can afford to have extra personnel on stage to play all these stuff, we're going to do that.
Nice.
But, yeah, I mean, we definitely don't shy away from using them. We just want them to be an accent piece rather than being out front.
Right.
Yeah, they're
Right,
backing tracks are cool as long as they're backing tracks.
If
Yeah,
there's a musician on the
100%.
stage that's not doing something and could be, then we got to fix something.
I can't tell you how many shows I've been to where I'm like, why isn't that guy playing keyboards?
Right.
Where's the keyboard part in the song? Because that's the other thing that drives me up the wall is when you put a cool part in the album and then I get to see you play it live and that part is missing. And I'm like, that was the hook.
Right.
Damn it. Where's the hook?
So, there is some parts too that if it's played and it's not necessarily a guitar part that's on the record,
Right.
but we can make it one.
Yeah.
that we will play it instead.
And that's always fun too.
Yeah, it will. We'll just so we do kind of like figure out a way to play things live that we feel like are the core, of
Right.
the- so that when we play it and we perform it live, that you can tell everybody's playing. The backing tracks are really backing, and you're not missing any parts of the songs.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
We're really conscientious about that. Like, it was annoying to people who were helping us to dial things in.
Yeah.
With how
Yeah,
conscientious
I was going to say,
we were.
is the producer in the studio like, guys, come on.
Oh, you know, the producers would just want you to play the CD. Be like, just pantomime it all, you know.
Yeah.
And because that's their baby, right? They
Sure.
they're like, don't change it.
Yeah.
So I get it.
So let's get super nerdy because I also am a musician and I like to add the secret reason that I wanted to do this podcast is to talk to other local musicians and try and like find out kind of cool stuff about like how you guys put stuff together. And one of those questions is gear. Like what kind of gear? Let's start with Rob. Okay. What kind of gear are you using?
So
today.
Much to a lot of.
I was just gonna say, you want me to leave the room
Yeah,
now?
I mean, I got-
This is gonna be a long time.
Yeah, we got another 5 hours.
Well, like you hit the stage. How many guitars do you usually bring to a show?
So, well, because it just depends. Ideally for me, I would have 4 guitars.
Okay.
Because of our different tunings and because of our ballad type songs, I'd want something more like a Telecaster sound with
Yeah.
the heavier songs. I have my favorites at Gibson,
Mm-hmm.
Les Paul, and I got like some ESPs for like drop tunes and because we have a
Okay.
couple of songs that we play live in drop B. That's the lowest
Drop
tuning we
B,
play.
wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
And
then you've got the 4 guitars. Obviously, you've got just probably a mountain of pedals.
So I have a pedal board that I built myself. I actually had the board built for me out in California. I put it together, but it was the power, the Mondo Voodoo
Sure.
Lab thing was hardwired in for me out.
But
out there.
what amp is all this coming out of?
So and this is going to be up to a lot of guitar players. I guess they wouldn't like it, but I use a Kemper Live.
on.
But I'm also endorsed by Mesa,
Okay.
and I have a Mesa Badlander that I'm going to be playing live very
Nice.
shortly. But the Kemper is just a matter of convenience. The Mesa does sound better.
Yeah.
Kemper just does everything I want it to do.
What about you, Chris?
I use a Bad Cat. It's a Hot Cat 30. I play I usually have 4 or 5 guitars live. They're all Telecasters I piece together.
All
forgot
Telecasters.
You forgot the best part about the Bad Cat, though.
Oh, it's a Mark Sampson era Bad Cat. The guy who had matchless amps. When
Okay.
matchless amps went out of business, he started Bad Cat. So
Interesting.
So I have one of his, and then they're all Telecasters I piece together, and then I just.
What is it about the Telecaster that you like exclusively use?
Well,
it?
because when we were on tour, I always had problems with Les Pauls. You take them out of the vault, they would adjust; they just wouldn't stay in tune as well.
Sure.
And with the Telecasters, I was able to put like the best parts that I thought were the best parts together.
Interesting.
And they weigh less than a Les Paul. I like the scale better, like the length, and I like the fact that they sound great. They have the same type of configuration, and they weigh less.
I'm not a huge Deftones fan, but to hear the Deftones are one of your influences, and then you're just playing Telecasters,
Well,
it seems
they're
like
they're-
two completely different
They're
worlds.
Telecaster Deluxes.
Yeah.
Right.
So they have the dual humbuckers.
Yeah.
But and I have a bare knuckle endorsement, so I use bare knuckle pickups on them. So
Nice.
they sound heavy like a Les Paul or like something. They just work better.
When we get done here, you guys need to tell me how I can get me an endorsement.
Oh, no problem.
I want to get me a guitar endorsement. It's way too expensive to keep my guitars up to date with all this stuff. You guys are gonna have to fill me in on how this works.
I think that's just because guitar players are who they are, and you
Maybe.
guys are constantly changing out
That's
parts
entirely
and pieces
possible.
and strings and different things. And
Quest.
Chris, is all of your stuff modded?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That was like every piece, right? So
What
go
about
ahead.
you? What about you, Ed? What are you playing through?
So right now I'm playing. I play a Sandberg 48 live, which is essentially, from the pickups standpoint, there's a P-bass pickup in it and there's a Music Man pickup in it. So you can kind of get somewhere in between those sounds or blend them. And then it's got the shape of a Gibson Thunderbird.
Interesting.
Which I've just always loved that shape on a bass, right? So found this guitar during the pandemic. You're not playing live. I think I bought, 10, 15 different basses and was just cycling them out. What's the one that fits my hand? What's the one that does the sound that I want? And that's kind of where I landed. So that's what I'm playing with live. And then for an amp, I don't want to carry around an 810. Just personal reasons. You play this many shows.
Bass amps are huge
Yeah,
and
it's
heavy.
So big. So I've got one of the new what's it called? Neural DSP makes a pedal now.
Okay.
That was designed by the guys that started Dark Glass. When they're lots of bass gear comes out of Dark Glass. So
Sure.
it was Quad Cortex. That's the name of it, and it's an amp modeler. But essentially, I'm running a Dark Glass for my Dirty Channel profile on there, along with a Ashdown Engineering ABM 600 for the clean sound. And the tool kind of lets me blend them the way I want.
Sure.
So, and this makes for like a dirt simple setup for me, which I kind of assist our sound engineer with setting up our stage box and all the wireless gear. So like my I'm just trying to keep that setup time down and fail safe. When you're the first band or the second band, like you don't
Sure.
get a lot of changeover time.
Nope.
We don't have text, so I just need it to work.
Yep.
And this is the right balance for me.
Do you bring any cool gear to your live shows?
I have a microphone.
Yeah. You have a specific. No, I was gonna say, do you specifically have a specific
Yes,
microphone
I have
that
a
you bring with you?
Sennheiser. It's an E940 series, and that thing is my baby.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any specific knowledge about this microphone or that. I used to use Beta 58s when we were in rehearsal and stuff like that, but like I needed something for live that was going to be like a really like a hot mic, and for a woman's voice in a rock setting to get my tone over and above all the instruments on the stage, right? And
Right.
as Ed mentioned, we're first of, however many bands, right? So like I got itty bitty living space. So, and I'm short. That's why I showed up with my platform boob. My drummer's cymbals are directly behind me.
Yeah.
So if I've got that coming through, like it's important for me to figure out, which is why my mic control is what it is.
Sure.
But this particular microphone, there was a different band. They came through on a tour and then did a one-off show years ago that we opened for. They're called Letters from the Fire. And this girl, I hated wireless microphones until this moment. And she gets up there with this wireless mic at Max Bar. Are you familiar with Max Bar?
I am not.
Okay, Max Bar in East Lansing, right? It's like the diviest bar for all the MSU students.
Sure.
And
I don't know if it's still there. But
I don't know if it's still there either. But it's this hole in the wall, like podunk, like 50-person max capacity bar. Like I was thinking in my brain, I was like, there's no way this wireless is gonna work
Right.
on this stage in this room. And it was flawless. And I was like, I need that thing.
I want one of those.
Yep, because if you can perform with that microphone and it works here in Max Bar,
Right.
and it also works while they open for the Seether tour, I need that kind of range of motion.
Yeah.
So, and I put it now in my little gator case. I have like a little briefcase.
Nice.
And I open it and I've got my my battery and my pack for my
Your,
in-ears and my
auto
little
tune
in-ear
pedal?
things. And
Nothing.
what? Excuse me, I am also one of the singists that helps load gear, so I don't want to hear nothing.
See,
all right?
I don't know if you've listened to the podcast, but that is a question I ask every single singer is, do you help load?
Oh, I was bad because when I first started in bands, I was 105 pounds and I wanted the biggest piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So
Give me
everybody
that,
would just,
give me that kick drum.
I need the kick drum. Yep. And I would put it over my shoulder like I was like a turtle and I'd carry it over. I wanted to be the baddest one, man.
That's awesome.
And everybody was going to know it. And
Yeah, no,
I don't feel like I have to prove myself like that anymore, but like I'll carry some simple stands.
It is my mission to shame every lead singer into loading because it used to drive me up the wall. It was like, you didn't bring anything. The least you could do is help us.
But you get to a certain point now where it's more important that she is the face of our brand at the merch table.
That is true.
So
that
we've
is
got
true.
a good system now where
That's not the first time I've had a singer be like, yeah,
Right.
but I'm at the merch table.
Yeah.
I'm slinging merch. And, I'm like,
and-
I guess.
And she puts the time in for real. Like,
Yeah.
she sets it up. She's counting orders and things like that. When our crew gets bigger, maybe we can relieve some of those duties, but she's working.
Well, speaking of live shows, as you mentioned earlier, you guys are playing on the 19th of November at the Token Lounge. You guys got a killer bunch of bands playing with you. A bunch of bands that we played on Motor City Riffs. It makes me happy to see like all these names all in a row, all playing at the same place. I'm like, yes, because that to me says that there is a healthy music scene where everyone is supporting each other. Maybe not everyone, but most of us are playing nice and trying to support each other.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's important.
Especially when you've grown up in this with other people that are still playing. Like, we've known Ricky Rocks for... How long have you guys known Ricky? I mean,
10 years.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah. We go way back with the guys in Casting Shadows. And, they're great at what they do also. They hustle and they promote and they're excited about it. And so it's like... easy to get along with those types of personalities who are, like you said, that everybody's in this collaborative space where it's just exciting to be part of this really big show. So we really appreciate that, they wanted to come cheer us on and do the thing and have a show. And
well,
it's gonna be killer.
Speaking of the show, it is to celebrate, as you said on Facebook, the release of your new album, which is called Love, Drugs, and Misery. And we're going to go into break right now and play one of the final songs on Love, Drugs, and Misery that you guys had recommended, Coming for Blood. Once again, anything you want to impart on people before they possibly hear the song for the first time?
You mentioned that some of our songs cross genres. This is one of them.
This is one of them? All right.
Yeah, this one's featuring Matt from a band called From Ashes to New.
Yeah.
So
All right, well, let's give it a listen. It's Coming for Blood, and we'll be coming back, but not for blood, just for more talking with Eva Under Fire with the Motor City Riffs podcast. We're back with the Motor City Riffs podcast. As always, I'm your host, Chuck Bean, here with the guys from Eva and Lady from Eva Under Fire, and you just heard their song Coming for Blood. Guys, as I mentioned earlier, I gave the record a spin before we got together today, and found quite a few songs that I was a big fan of. I know the first song that you guys had sent me, and this is like 2 years ago, that's actually on this record, which made me happy, was Heroin.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love that song. Unstoppable was definitely a favorite. I really dug that song. And Ghost.
Oh, so
Ghost
cool.
Was
I love
really,
that.
It's funny because
really
one of
cool.
our producers hates Ghost.
Hates it.
And yeah, he just trashes all the time. And like, we just put out a video for it, and I'm seeing the fan reaction. There's a lot of people love that song.
It's good. It reminds me of another song named Ghost, or another song that was called Ghost that was by Bad Flower.
Oh, yeah.
And it like very. I'm not going to say they have a similar vibe, but I got a similar feeling listening to both of those songs.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love
that
that.
band's one of those bands where the songs kind of like give you chills sometimes.
Sometimes,
right?
yeah.
And that I can see
They can
that
be
for,
so raw.
I can see that for Ghost. Yeah.
It's funny too because for a while we didn't really play Ghost live because they really dissuaded us and kept telling us we shouldn't play the song.
That was something I wanted to ask you because another friend in a band, another friend of mine that's in a band, I was just talking to him about an album that they had released earlier this year about like, hey, this song's my favorite song. He's like, yeah, we're never playing that song live. Sorry. Is there any songs? I'm not, not necessarily on the new record, but are there any songs that you guys have done in the studio and then taken back to rehearsal and been like, we can't do this song?
I think we've played every song live.
Any song that we've ever released has seen live at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've
And-
never not played.
And
a
it's
song.
really to the point where our set time is restricting what we can play.
Sure.
So we kind of got to go to the what's trending in Spotify the last month? What are people listening to? They paid money to come and be entertained, and
Right.
And we got to think about what they want to hear, right?
Right.
Versus forcing something on them. So that's part of it. And then when you're building the set, you want to have it be a little bit of a roller coaster, right? So it can't just be all balls to the wall for an hour and a half, right? You gotta try and build it that way. So certain songs might make it one day, but the next day,
Right.
or the crowd didn't go over with them well, and you're like, oh, that was kind of a dud tonight.
You need to make the set for the guys, and then also have the songs in there for the guys' girlfriends.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay. That's what. This is always an interesting question. Who makes the set list? Is it a collaborative effort, or is it like one person is like, I got it?
I think it's more of a collab.
It's
Yeah, I
definitely a
think so.
collab. Many times we'll start with how much time do we have?
Yeah.
And then because we do use tracks,
Right.
there's a program that I use to like put them in order
Mhm.
so that our drummer Corey can start them in the right order, right? So I kind of start with like a bass and then send it out to everybody and we're like, hey, what are we thinking about this for this show? And
Sure.
There are
and
certain
forth.
songs, everyone reacts differently to each, but where it's like we'll mention this song live to play it live, and then somebody in the band will be like, oh, not that one.
Yeah. and then they'll be like, oh, remember 2 weeks ago we played it and it was trash? We're not playing that one tonight.
Does
we
the-
did
Does the drummer
bring-
ever pipe in and be like, guys, you can't put that song and that song next to each other? I'm gonna die.
He's done that before. Back when we were playing the older stuff.
We killed them with the old stuff.
Yeah, there was
the older punk songs that we
Yeah.
had.
There were a couple. He's
we
like,
put them
"Can
to
we-
work.
Can we not do those back to back? And
Right.
We're like, okay.
And then we covered Everlong on top of it around the
Oh.
same time.
Right.
And
But
That's
we
rough.
did. So we did bring Ghost back, and we've been playing that at the last couple shows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. So what you mentioned you guys covered Everlong. We talked about on the record. You guys have a kick-ass U2 cover. What are some awesome covers? Like if people come out and see you this in November 19th, what are some cool covers they can maybe anticipate hearing?
You're gonna hear Separate Ways because that's a song that's done very well for us. When we've released it, we played that live for 4 years. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. We are going to play U2. That's on the record.
Which we never do.
Yeah, we've only played that song one other time live, maybe twice, but it's going to be better this time than it's ever been because we really put the work in to make
Sure.
it good this time around. What other covers, guys?
You
That's
guys
it
play. You
for
guys play
this
Separate
show.
Ways at Riff Fest, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's
'Cause I-
also like one other little blip. It's a good throwback moment in the middle of another one of your favorite songs, Unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to come to the show,
There is
check
a-
it
there
out.
is a
All right.
third-
It's
there is a
definitely
third
a
one
crowd
there.
pleaser. You guys will have fun with that one.
Excellent. Good stuff. This is another question that like is kind of music nerdy, but I'm always very interested in. I like to go around the room. We'll start with you, Eva. Are you professionally trained, or is it all self-taught musically?
Self-taught.
Self-taught.
Yeah, I don't know anything about notes or
What about
any
you?
of that. I have a very good ear, and I did take like piano lessons as a kid. Well, I took lessons from a piano instructor.
Okay, but it wasn't
singing
piano lessons. It was
Correct.
singing lessons.
Singing lessons. And so that was helpful with my range. But outside of that, I'm winging it.
Yeah. What about you, Rob?
I started playing trombone when I was in 6th grade, so I learned all the classical instrument notation.
You picked the hard one too, because it's the one that's like you gotta by ear figure out what that note is.
I think
It's got the arms for it.
I think any instrument
true.
with a reed is the hardest and the most disgusting.
God.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Hardest to make sound good.
Yeah. I mean, the mouthpieces on a trombone are disgusting.
You
too.
might as well have played fretless bass.
Oh. So where am I?
Yeah, right.
Where am I?
But then I discovered guitar when I was a teenager, and I mean, trombone has been buried in my attic ever since.
Right. You weren't going ska, so we might as well stick with that guitar.
Right.
What about you, Chris?
Self-taught.
Self-taught?
We can tell.
What instruments did you start playing, Chris?
I started playing drums, and I did play drums in the school band until I got kicked out in 7th grade because I was a problem child.
I can confirm this.
And
All
then,
right.
yeah, and then but I grew up around like my dad played guitar and stuff, so I just picked it up.
So like pretty much by ear.
Yeah.
Figured out how it
He
works.
showed me a couple chords, and I learned how to read tabs, and that was it.
Yep. Ed?
Yeah, so a lot of music in my background. I don't know where you draw the line at professionally trained. I feel like that's for people that go to like Juilliard, right? But
Well, did you take lessons? Do you know how to
absolutely.
read
So
music?
I struck a deal with my mom when I was like 7 years old, where she would buy me a guitar and take me to lessons if I would play the piano and take lessons for piano. I didn't want to play
So
the
you
piano.
had to double
that was
up.
my sister's instrument.
Sure.
So, and I hated it until like until I stopped taking lessons. I was like, oh, I miss it, right? But so yeah, guitar, piano, played the trombone in the high school band and the marching band, choir at church, all that stuff. Been around it, so it's hard to remember, how much I know and how much other people don't know.
Sure.
But it's never really been easy for me to like sight read or understand which note comes better after the next note. It's always been better by ear.
Excellent.
So I don't know that training really helps me a whole lot.
But in our band-
Do you guys-
other than
so-
put me.
so it
Hold
sounds
on, in
like
our band, Ed would be the theory guy.
I
though.
would be.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
be for sure. But it's definitely it's not something that I have to think about. It's not second nature for me when it comes to the theory, right?
Right. So it sounds like most of you guys work by ear as far as this. Have you had to develop your own almost musical language as a unit
No,
by
because
playing by ear?
No, because like just by learning guitar self-taught, you know the notes and chord names because you're learning songs and doing stuff. So you just naturally pick that up. And everyone in the band that plays the string instrument knows the notes, so we could
Sure.
say it's a D, it's an E, whatever it is, and we all know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the band knows enough theory to know what's in a certain key and what's not.
Sure.
So if if Chris is riffing on a certain
That
number,
laugh tells me that might not necessarily
Not me.
be true.
It's not me. Yeah. He was talking about
They know what's
strings
going
over
on,
here.
right.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any frets to
I'll
worry
go.
about.
I'll go like but it should go like a. I'll do the thing
she's-
that they. Yeah.
I don't know how you determine perfect pitch or not, but she's definitely close if she doesn't have
Yeah.
it, because there's a couple songs that start with her. She doesn't get like a cue note to tell her where to start,
Right.
and she nails it every time.
That's
Until
cool.
Forever was our song we closed with. Forever. She starts it, and then I come in, and I can't
Yeah, if she's-
remember
if
a
she's
single
off and
time
you hit
where
that
she-
first
where she-
note,
where she
it's
was
gonna
off
be
on the
obvious.
first note. So like she's got it naturally.
Right.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Yeah, with all my string speak, I'll just like try to give you the sounds that I'm thinking. But yeah, that I rely on my ear a lot. But everybody else, they are the people that need to understand like where all of them are playing, what key, what note, what this, what that, and then
Right.
and then I come in. I mean, all of us have a very definitive part. That's not my strong suit.
Let me ask you this: because you play guitar, so like when I was learning, I wanted to know the chord names and the notes and all that. And so, did you take lessons or were you self-taught?
All self-taught.
And did you want to learn the chord names and the notes, or did you pick it up subconsciously?
I didn't learn chord. That's why I ask if you guys developed your own language to it, because we did. Like me and the bass player I learned to play guitar with, like we were learning almost at the same time, just figuring out how Nirvana songs worked. And we had to figure out like, okay, it's 3rd fret, and then it's 2nd, and then it's 5th fret, and then this, and then eventually you're like, you figure out, okay, that's a D chord, and that's a G chord, and this is an A chord, all right, and you see where you watch other guitar players, and you're like, he's doing that, I know what that is,
Yeah.
Right.
kind of thing.
So I don't know if you were able to catch on to this, but we've known each other forever.
Yes.
And he has every issue of Guitar World ever printed since like 1990.
I
Dang!
did, but I threw them away recently.
Yeah,
But I did, yeah.
And like before the internet, right?
Yeah,
was a
that
big
was
thing.
where you learned
And that was where you
songs.
learned songs with tabs, right? So, you know, and when you read enough of them, you pick up on that said that's an F, and that said it's a G. And
Right.
I think that's kind of how we learned that we communicate via that kind of language.
You know, when I first started playing guitar, because trombone's a bass clef instrument, guitar's treble clef. So I actually went through, and my first book that I ever bought wasn't a tab book. It was like a notation book.
Yeah.
So
Every
I
good
actually
boy
had to
deserves fudge.
transpose everything. Like, and it's 2.5 steps up from bass to treble clef. And I'm like, this is a nightmare. I'm just going to use tabs.
Yeah. I'm hoping this is a universal thing, because we've all looked at tabs. What is a song you can clearly remember looking at the tab and trying to play and being like, this is wrong?
90% of the ones you look at. like we said, we're good by ear, right?
Right.
When you look at the tab,
looking
you're
at
like,
a tab
why
and
would
I'm
my
hitting that-
finger do that?
I'm
No,
I'm
that
playing the
doesn't-
chord, and I'm like, I've got it on in the background on the CD, and I'm like, that's not right.
Some of the apps out there are much better now because
Yeah.
they have like the MIDI notation.
they've
and
come a
play it
long way with
along,
that
and
stuff.
It is
rate
better.
them too, which I
Yeah.
like. So you,
Right.
Yeah, now that you can just Google like Everlong tab, you can
yeah.
pull up the one that does sound correct,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
But a lot of times for me, I always found tabs are good to get you in the ballpark.
Right.
Right.
And then you use your ear.
And then you-
Exactly.
exactly. And I've
Like,
done
okay,
that a
this
lot.
might not be exactly like the motion is correct, but the frets they've got me on are completely wrong. Like if I transpose that up 2 frets, then that sounds correct.
Yep.
Yeah, like when you read a tab, and for me, if I'm trying to learn like a solo, and all of a sudden I go from the 2nd fret, and they want me to stretch to like the 9th fret, I'm like, this.
And you're like, that's stupid.
shit, right?
The note is right here.
Right.
There's no reason to move all the way
tab
over
books, you know, I don't know if they're auto-generated or if some guy actually physically used to write all those things down.
here. We used
but
to joke in the band I was in, we used to joke that if we ever made it famous and people were tabbing on our stuff, we would purposely tab it wrong.
That's a
As
good idea.
complicated
I
as
like it.
possible.
Yeah.
Just to be jerks.
Yeah.
So we've talked about you guys have gotten to do so many cool things. Like you said, you've got a song in a movie. You were in the movie, weren't you?
I was in the movie. Yeah.
Absolutely. You guys have gotten to do some cool touring and stuff like that. What are some of your favorite places that you've played?
I'm going to start just because it just pops out right at me. We played in Milwaukee on the Theory of a Dead Man tour
Okay.
at a place called The Rave, and it is just so cool.
Is that the haunted place?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the venue itself was nice, you know, kind of like a theater style, right?
Sure.
Nirvana
But-
had played there.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
I mean, everybody in rock has played there at some
Right.
point. But they had like the backstage area was like these weird kind of like, I don't know, 50s style rooms with lava lamps and curtains and stuff like that, and tapestry type rugs. And then there's this whole haunted like pool
Empty
area. I
swimming
think it
pool.
used to be maybe like a gym or a
haunted empty
yeah.
swimming pool?
Yeah, it's empty. And there's every band that's sold out the venue, I think 3 times is the rule, gets to sign the pool. And then every band that's played there signed the walls on the outside. But
I would like to think that empty pool is full of ghosts.
we walk into this place and there's just this beautiful Sharpie artist rendering of the Alice in Chains logo that they must have done and then
Wow.
all signed. And just, you know, name a band that's come out in the last 20 years. They probably signed
They've
that
signed
pool,
it
right?
somewhere in that
Yeah.
pool.
So it was just cool seeing all of that and be like all of the artists that came through here and sign this. And
I want
just
any of
the
the
vibe.
local venues that are listening to the Motor City Riffs podcast to hear that story and realize you got to step your game up. You
Yeah.
don't have a haunted pool for people to sign.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of luck too. I mean, who turns a place that had a haunted pool into a venue?
That's
you know?
true.
So.
He's missing the best part of that though. Is there was that hotel thing where
Yep.
where Dahmer would take those guys, you know what I'm talking about, where he got
Yes.
banned from? That was
Just
across the street. And we used to be there, and they were telling us that he would pull victims out of the bar over there, right there too.
Oh,
and stuff.
my God.
So they were like they talked about all that, and this was how like 2021 or something. So this is before the Netflix series came out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Before it was all the rage. They were telling us that part. I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
That's wild.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's absolutely wild. What are some of the like your
I'll
favorite?
go. My favorite
go
place
ahead.
we played is Mandalay Bay in Vegas on the Strip.
Oh yeah, the
That had
to be
House
pretty
of
fun.
Blues
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Mandalay Bay. The sound was amazing. Just being in Vegas is cool.
And it's on the
Sure.
Vegas Strip. It's it's cool.
You don't
You
really.
can swear it's fine.
There's not really much more of a rock star feeling you can get than playing on the Vegas Strip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
In
immediately
Vegas.
after the show, going to the Strip,
Yeah.
having a good time, partying.
I
Nice.
immediately left the show after we played, went to Circus to their high-end steakhouse,
Yeah.
had a nice steak dinner, and then watched Trapeze Act in the Circus Casino. You know what I mean?
Nice.
It was great.
That's fun. What about bands? What are some of the bands that like you guys have opened for that like just blow your mind? Like I can't believe we got to open for these guys.
Yeah, that's a long list too.
I'll
I mean,
go.
It is a long list.
Technically, we opened for Metallica the day they headlined at.
I mean, I love Metallica. They
Love
haven't
in
blown me
Rockville.
away in about 25 years
Well,
live.
just the
Hot
fact,
take.
the fact that we opened for them, we're on the same chart, right?
Right.
Same
They're
day.
cutting
For
off the
me,
broadcast now.
similarly, it was Nine Inch
Blast
yeah,
me.
Nails.
if you
We're
put,
on the
if you put
flyer.
that poster
Yeah.
or that flyer
Right.
and you framed it,
That's
our
wild.
name's on the same flyer. Sure,
Yeah.
That is
That's
pretty.
awesome.
That is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Artists in different ways too. They've blown me away. I'll start with Theory of a Dead Man. Not a huge fan of hearing Theory of a Dead Man
Sure.
songs on the radio. I like Santa Monica. That's a great song.
Okay.
But watching them play live and like just the musicianship and the chemistry they have, it's you take on a different appreciation for them.
Sure.
And all the bands we've played with in some way kind of you take more appreciation for they've been here this whole time.
Yeah, they're
Right.
actually good.
Yeah.
You know who blew
Right.
me away that I was not expecting to be as great of people and as awesome of a live band was Buck Cherry.
Yeah.
I toured with them and like they had some songs I liked or whatever, but I gained a whole new respect for what they do.
Yeah.
But they didn't play for the movies.
And that was and because
They-
this tour with them, they never played it the whole
Demerit.
time, and I
Yeah.
asked the singer Josh Todd why I don't play it. I'm like, that's like my favorite song. It was a radio hit.
Right.
I'm like, why aren't you playing this? But yeah, they were so good.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands that we've played with that are all, like they've alluded to, just incredible people, incredible
Right.
time. My favorite tour to date is probably the Nothing More tour because it was the first time post-pandemic that everybody could like have the green room doors open and hang out and interact and
Right.
it was so it felt like finally this is how it was,
Yeah.
and then we would tell each other the stories, well, we just got here, we don't have any prior touring experience, and they were like, oh, no wonder why you guys are looking around like this is awesome. 'Cause we had no idea that it could, because everything that we did prior was pretty restricted and really careful and like super right. We got an early start, which was wonderful, but also really chaotic.
Sure.
But the other band that I loved that was really just great humans and like onboarded us, even despite being a weird time. Buck Cherry was one of them. Another one was Skillet.
yeah.
So when we went on the Skillet tour, I feel like they were very cognizant about the fact that we didn't have and their crew as well, that we didn't have any experience. And we mentioned a stage box earlier. So during one of the shows, our stage box actually blew.
Oh,
And
dang.
yeah. So, but we were on the tour with Adelina's Way and with Skillet, and the Skillet production manager was over there talking about, don't panic, you're going to be fine. Like a room full of, 1,500 people, and we'd been waiting for this opportunity for I can't tell you how long. And
Right.
everybody is here, and we're delaying. It was a lot of panic for me in that moment. Just like went
I'm
white
sure.
as a ghost. I was like, that's the first time where I really was sketched out about what we were going to do here. We didn't want to make a bad name for ourselves, but they were so helpful. And even the band members themselves were like, you know, you guys are great. Don't worry about it. You got this. Like, I love your performance. I stood side stage for the entire Skillet show, and John was addressing the crowd, and Corey and Jen came up side stage, you know, just changing out their stuff.
Sure.
And they were talking me up while
Yeah.
I was standing side stage
Like,
for
hey, how's
their
it going?
performance. I
Right.
was like, what? So we've had a wonderful time with so many of the bands. They've
I've
just
seen
been
it.
great.
I've seen it on a local level more than on a national level. But one of my favorite things is like when a guitarist breaks a string and the guitarist in one of the other bands is right there with like, here, just use mine. Just
Yeah.
instead of goofing around and trying to restring a guitar or trying to figure it, here, just use my guitar.
Yeah,
And-
Mad
and-
love for Adelaida's Way, because they strike all of our stuff off the stage, and they put Adelaida's Way stuff on stage so that we could perform like 2 songs before they
Yeah.
went up. We
And
just used all
that's
their
freaking
gear.
sweet.
And that, like that saying, the show must go on. That
Yeah.
doesn't apply to just your crew. It's the tour.
Yeah.
For the tour, the show must go on. Like everybody's like trying to help you sort it out. You know, that might be us helping somebody else or them helping us, whatever.
Right.
And that's something that was I didn't realize until we started hitting the road that's
Yeah, at some point,
it's a family tour.
we were helped out, and if we're ever in a position to help somebody else out, that's what we would do. You know,
Yeah,
pass
absolutely.
the buck. You just, you know.
Well, before we wrap the show up here, I want to plug one more time that you guys are playing at the Token Lounge Saturday, November 19th. It's your CD release party.
CD
Album
release,
release.
album
there's
release,
only-
album release
there's-
show, album release party.
There's
Love, Drugs, and
only-
Misery is out. Come
There's
party
less
with
than
us.
80 tickets left,
Ah.
Right.
Yeah.
so
hopefully, like I'm gonna try and crank this podcast out as soon as possible. By the time this comes out, you
The
guys might be
token-
sold out.
it
The
might be sold
token
out.
will be smoking.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I got one more question before we let you guys go, and that is for where you guys are now as a band. If you were to talk to somebody who is just starting out in a local band, what is the one piece of advice you would
Quit
each give them?
now.
Why? Why quit
Oh
now?
my God, just
He
give
hates
up.
us. He hates us. He hates
Go
us
to
all.
college. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, go to college. Listen to your parents. Oh my Lord, you're in for
Yeah,
a long road.
You were just talking about
Wow.
having a steak dinner on the strip after a show.
That's correct. That was an amazing time. But like to get to even this point where we're at it's such a long, hard road.
But I think to that point, then what I would say in encouragement of chasing your dreams, Christopher, is it's never going to be what you expected it to be. So just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're also going to be there for like each other. Like find your tribe, because if those people that you're jamming with are already problematic, like they will continue to be problematic. Go find people that are not. and then try this, you
Yeah.
know, and make sure that you're loving it every step of the way.
I'll follow up with a close two on that is relationships. Like that is everything. We got an opportunity to go open up for Nothing More at the Machine Shop when it had already sold out because we were cool on tour. You know, we had a great time.
Sure.
They're like, oh, Eva's from Detroit. Let's call them, see if they want to open.
Nice.
Show's already sold out. It was an amazing time. You're not going to get those opportunities if you don't have relationships.
Yeah.
And that goes on the back end business side too. That's how you meet with a record label, meet with the lawyer, meet with management. Like it's all relationships, and it's kind of a small circle at that level. So you can't upset too many people. You don't want them to take advantage of you, but you can't do somebody raw because they're gonna blacklist you if they can. Right.
Right.
I would say a big one is quality over quantity for any bands that are coming up and they want to record 20 songs and try to get it done as cheap as possible. You're better off doing
Just pick
one
your,
or two,
pick your best
paying
3.
a little bit more, paying the right people to do it for you, and then try to throw some money behind it because you can't do it without advertising yourself. You just can't. I mean, unless you go viral on YouTube, which you have as good a chance of hitting the lottery. So,
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming in for the Motor City Riffs podcast. As always, I encourage you guys to, if you're downloading the podcast, check out Motor City Riffs every Sunday night at 9 p.m. You can find some local bands that may become your favorite band and go out and see them and have a good time. And, I don't have anything else to put in the end of this. Thanks for coming in, guys.
thank you.
Thanks for letting us
having
be Terrible House guests.
Yes.
No
Cheers.
problem.
Motor City Riffs. Much love. Thank you.